If you've seen my previous video, by now you probably have a good idea of the basics of laning. Most games you'll probably come out even, or maybe you're even winning most of your lanes, but somehow you can't manage to close out the games reliably. In this video, we're going to explore the different ways to gain an advantage during the mid game and how to play in different scenarios. So the best way for me to show this was to show one of my games in which I actually lost lane. So we're going to start once the laning stage is over. So the first step is when is the laning stage over? Generally speaking, the laning stage is over once one of the towers goes down. This isn't always true. I would say that usually around the 9-minute mark, even if towers haven't gone down, the laning stage will be considered over. But in most cases, one tower will go down before the 9-minute mark. So in this situation, our tower goes down, which puts an end to the laning stage for the most part because we don't have an objective nearby anymore to protect. And so we're a little bit more free to do different things on the map. So this is where we'll start off our exercise for today. So I'll just hit the play and do some comment as we go. Just got a little visual glitch here. Let me just reload the demo so it's fine. Okay. All right, so you can see here it's pretty dire. Playing against Shiv. As I've shown all of you guys in my video, Shiv is very broken. And so he dives me 7 minutes, kills me, and that's the end of our laning stage. Right now, I've got 5k. My laning partner, Mo and Corella, 4.2k souls, and the Shiv has 7k, so he's 2k ahead of us. And in terms of AP, even though the soul lead is actually nothing, the AP lead is 11. This is a very, very important factor in the mid game. So let's start with that. What does AP lead mean? So most people, when they look at this game, they're going to look at souls at the top. And I did this for a very, very long time as well. However, the AP lead is ability points, and it also scales your bullet damage and your health. As you can see, total power increases on the left. You can see this right here, bottom left. The total power increases is determined by your AP as well. Now, how do you get AP? So the first thing is you see here's an amount of souls to my next point, right? So right now, I just got 1 AP. But the other way to get AP is to get objectives. So buildings give AP. So this is a very important factor because you need to have a significant amount of AP if you want to be able to win the mid-game fights. Right now, being down 11 AP, even though the souls are completely even, fights are going to be very hard for us to take because they'll just have, their abilities are going to be much higher level, right? I only have total, I've spent, let's say I have 2 points here and I've spent 3, so I have 5 points. If I look at the Shiv here, I can see he spent 3 points here. He spent 3 points here, so he spent 6 points, and he has another 2 in the bank. So he's at 8 points already. So he's got 3 points ahead of me, which is extremely significant. So that's the first thing that I'm going to say is AP is extremely important and do not underestimate it. Now that we've talked about it, how do you gain AP? You gain AP by taking objectives. So once the laning stage is over, the best way to get ahead is to take as many objectives as you can. This will be right now, as you can see on the minimap, we don't have any of their towers. So they have all of their tier 1 towers up, all of their guardians. And this is why the AP lead is so bad for us. And in this situation, it's not at our advantage to take fights, right? But on the other hand, if you're ahead and you have the AP lead or the souls lead or both, what you want to do is you want to be pressing objectives, right? So you want to be going at towers, you want to be taking them. So you don't necessarily just want to stay in your lane, but you also want to help your teammates also win their lanes by going there. So if you've started off, you've won your lane, you want to go to other lanes and help them out, help take the tower as well, right? Now, let's say that they're defending the towers very well, which is kind of what's happening in this game, right? I'm trying to take a tower. I'm going around and I'm seeing, hey, there's no easy tower to take. They're defending them. I see Vindicta's defending blue. I see purple's pushed all the way, so that's a problem. I see that orange, there's some aggression, and I don't really want to fight them. The other thing that you want to look for is you want to look for picks first so that you can take the tower, right? So we see this Yamato. I call, hey, this Yamato's really forward. Let's take her down, right? She ults, but after the ult, we should be able to kill her pretty easily. So she did a good job shoving the wave. She died for it. But now my Kelvin and I will be able to shove this lane. And right now, with the info that I have, I don't necessarily see everything that I see on the minimap right now. I'm not sure that there's a bunch of people purple, and I have to take care of blue. So the problem is our lanes were not shoved. So that's another point. You want to shove lanes. Shoving lanes allows you to take objectives and put pressure. Creeps actually do a lot of damage to objectives in this game. So if your lanes are always pushed, you're gonna be able to take objectives. That's I would say the main way to take objectives. Obviously, you need to hit them yourself usually. But as you can see, I've pushed the lanes on blue and purple. And now I'm coming here on the other objective and trying to just defend it. I think I may die here. No, I'm good. So I would say one mistake that we're making here is we're fighting maybe a little bit too much, although this fight looks pretty good. But here we're at the objective, we're at the tower. And now that we've gotten 2 picks here, we should really look to push an objective. As you can see, the Yamato is just shoving purple constantly. I've played against this guy quite a few times, and that tends to be what he does. He likes to really like shove out one lane, and there are players like this that really like to shove out a lane. What you do against that is, obviously you have to respond. You can't let them take the walker. So you just have one person who's really good at counter shoving. For example, I would say that Kelvin's very good at it. He's got a beam, he's got a grenade, he's got good wave clear. So you just have Kelvin sit in that lane, make sure that the opponent can't get the walker, and they're not getting a lot of value for what they're doing. So in the meantime, my teammates were also working on different objectives. So while this fight was happening, another thing that's going to be very important in the mid game is you really want to make sure not to get involved in bad fights if your teammates are taking them. So let's actually rewind that a little bit and look from my Dynamo's perspective. Right, so here on the map, you might be tempted, like, we got 2 kills in orange and we're still fighting. So if you're the Dynamo, you might be tempted, like, hey, you know, I gotta go orange, I gotta help my team, right? But taking the tower here is the correct play. So you really want to make sure not to overcompensate and go to too many fights. Taking objectives is extremely important. Now, it is unfortunate that he does end up dying here. Maybe he could have lived. Oh, he kind of messed up his warp stone here. But, and I feel like he could have fought the, maybe not. Yeah, he's dead. But regardless, in that meantime, my Kelvin is pushing this tower, right? So you're kind of seeing what's happening. There's a lot of fights that are happening, and maybe we're not directly winning the fights. But if you look at the souls have remained the same, but the AP is almost equal now, which means we're in a much better position to take fights. So that's the first mistake that I see. Taking too many fights and not taking advantage of the space on the map. So both my teammates there did a great job pushing different objectives while we were taking fights. Now, another important thing in the mid game is how do you take fights? And this is, now that we've covered, like, hey, you know, you should be pushing lanes. The AP lead is very important. You should be taking objectives. How do you just take fights, right? Because there comes a point in the game where every initial tower has been taken, and all that's left are the tier 2 towers, or what the game calls walkers, which walkers are much harder to take. They're much tankier, they're bigger, etc. So how do you decide what's a good fight versus what's not a good fight? So that's a great question. I would say that generally is a question of strength and numbers and knowing what your character can do versus what your character cannot do. So the first thing is you should always be looking at the minimap. The minimap is your source of information. If you're a MOBA player, this will be very obvious to you. If you've never played a MOBA before, make sure that the minimap is what you're paying attention to more so than the game itself a lot of the time, because it'll give you information. So, for example, right here, the only information that I have because of waves is, hey, Bebop is blue, Infernus is purple. And then I probably see that there's going to be 2 orange very soon. So I'm seeing Infernus here. And I'm deciding, hey, I'm going to shove this wave, right? I'm going to get this wave as deep as I can so that I get more information and more pressure. And then I'm going to take their jungle. So when you're shoving waves, you're doing so for 2 reasons. You're doing so that you can pressure their objectives, right? So if you push the wave and they don't respond, you can just keep going and push the objective, and then they have to respond to you. Otherwise, you're going to get the objective and you're going to get a huge AP lead, right? Which, if you have a huge AP lead, taking fights is easy. if they do respond to you, just like he did there, I pushed the wave and then I went to the jungle camp nearby to accelerate my farm. So this is something you'll see quite often. Here I decided to show up just because they're going very deep on my team and I think I can get a kill. So you do have to keep in mind, like, hey, it's okay to show up to fights if you see the good opportunity. That's something that's going to be very hard to teach. It's something just about knowing your character, knowing your limits. What I would say is play it out and don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. But keep in mind when you're experimenting, like, hey, maybe this isn't optimal, but I want to try it out and see if it works for my character. So the game right now is still perfectly even. We haven't managed to put our lead further. But what should we be doing right now? So there's the objective called the urn. The urn spawns every 5 minutes. You can see it on the minimap right here. You can see my teammate just picked it up. So a lot of people will call, hey, let's run the urn, right? One thing to know about the urn is that the urn gives you AP and it gives you souls, a pretty significant amount. I believe at the beginning, the urn gives something like 3,900 souls, the first urn, but I could be wrong, but it's somewhere around there. And it gives extra souls to the person who delivers it, and it gives AP to the person who delivers it as well. So it's a very, very important objective. And the reason it's important is because when there's nothing else to do on the map, it's very valuable. And even when there is other things to do on the map, it's very valuable. For example, right now, our Kelvin's got the urn. And the enemy team knows that he has the urn, so they're trying to play around the drop-off area. And the Kelvin knows this, so he's just kind of waiting for the right opportunity to go submit it. But right now, it looks like our Mo and Krill is creating space. They're going on him instead, so this guy should be able to go drop the urn. So this is an example of taking advantage of the space on the map to accomplish things that are more important than just brawling. Once again, this game, this is not Overwatch, right? This is Deadlock. This is a MOBA. You have to take advantage of the space on the map. It's not all about just brawling. A lot of it is wave clearing, pushing waves, and then going for different objectives. There's only 3 different types of objectives. There's buildings, there's the urn, and then there is the Midboss, aka Roshan, from those that have played Dota. He's very similar to Roshan. The second life aspect, or the faster respawn, is very similar to an Aegis. So those are the 3 objectives. Now right here, this is a great example of, like, hey, if they don't respond to my push, I will go ahead and push the objective, right? So here I see, hey, there's an Infernus. But I know the limits of my hero, and I know that I can just stay in the air for a very long time with rapid recharge and superior stamina. And so I'm just staying in the air, taking the objective, and seeing, hey, is this going to work? Taking the walker is extremely important. So we didn't have a walker before this. I took the walker. The walker gives us some AP. So as you can see now, we're ahead in AP by 4. But it also gives us a flex slot. So for some reason on the replay, it doesn't show, but we have a flex slot now. There it is. It shows on my Mo and Krill. Flex slots are very, very important because filling out your slots in this game is fairly common. And so you want to be able to have a flex slot to buy some other items. Now that I've taken a walker, taking other walkers is important, but it's not as high priority because we already have the first walker. So here I get a pretty nice flash ult. We get him on the tower. It's looking good. This was another example of a fight that is just a good fight, right? They're at our objective. They're grouped up. We have an opportunity. I'm just gonna let the fight play out a little bit. I get swapped. Yeah. So why was that fight good? That fight was good because I'm playing Lash. They're pushing our objective, which makes it fairly easy for me to get a good Lash ult, right? Now, after this fight, we have a couple options. Midboss is the option that makes the most sense because we almost wiped them, so we got 5 kills. And they don't have any ultimates that are available that allow them to contest Midboss. So one thing you need to know about Midboss in this game is it's very, very easy to contest if you have heroes that are good at contesting it. Heroes that are good at contesting it are Infernus, they're Abrams, they're Dynamo, anyone with a big AoE stun, a big AoE control ability. If they have those heroes and they're not dead, doing mid boss is pretty risky because they might be able to steal it by going in there with like an Infernus ult, going there with a Dynamo ult, something like that. So we knew that Infernus didn't have his ult and he was dead. And they don't really have anybody else on their team who's great at contesting it. And we have heroes that are pretty good at defending it. So we went for the mid boss, which gives us a huge advantage. What you need to know about mid boss is it makes all of your creeps huge. So it kind of gives you mega creeps from Dota a little bit. So your lanes are all going to push. And on top of that, you get faster respawns for your second life as well. So it's a really big advantage. And whenever you can take it, you should. However, I would say that for newer players, do be careful because it tends to be bait more often than not. Because in lower elo games, people don't go to mid boss fast enough. And what happens is you're not killing it fast enough. And if you're not killing it fast enough, then the enemy team, you know, they get to come and they get to contest it. And if they do get to contest it and you get it stolen, you know, you might end up wiping in the mid boss. Like a lot of bad things might happen. So I would say objectively, go to mid boss when you get a really good fight near mid boss and it's a wipe. And the later, the better, because the longer the respawn timers are. Now we have Rejuvenator, but you can see that we're still losing the fight. And the reason for that is because we were very split and we didn't take a good fight. So that goes into another element, which I think is do not get caught up in your teammates' stupid decisions. So your teammates are going to get caught. They're going to die. They're going to take bad fights. Right? Like my 7, he got caught. He died. He's not having a great game, and that's okay. But you don't want to necessarily be caught in their decision. You don't need to help them at all costs. If sometimes they're dead and there's nothing you can do about it. And you should be looking, hey, is there anything else I can do on the map? So right now I'm just waiting because I'm waiting to see if they're going to push this objective. And if they are, then I can get another big lash ult like I did last time. But then I'm seeing, okay, they're not really pushing this stuff. And then they show up with 2 people and I'm like, okay, maybe they are. So I'm just going to wait. I get a lash ult on 1. And yeah. So that's just an example of getting picks with lash. This is something very lash specific. Like most characters don't have this kind of pick off potential. But lash is very good at doing this. And now that we have a pick, obviously we want to look for a fight or an objective. Anytime you get a pick, you should be thinking, can I get an objective? Can I get a fight? So there was no objective nearby, so we decided to go for the fight. Overall, I think this ends up being a pretty good fight for us. I'm going to let the fight play out to see if it was actually good for us, but I do believe so. Yeah. So we got the fight. Now we're going to go ahead. We're going to push the lane. And I would say that this pretty much sums up the mid game, right? Then there's how to end the game, which we'll see after. But I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I think you guys have gotten the gist of it. So how to push your advantage in the mid game. Number 1, take objectives. Number 2, take their jungle if you can. And then other than that, as far as taking fights go, take fights when you have numbers advantage. Take fights when you are ahead in the game. If you're behind, just try to push lanes and take objectives as much as possible and try to split them up. So a lot of the time, if you're behind, you're going to go ahead, you're going to push one lane. And then they might bring back 2 people for you. And if they bring back 2 people, then you can fight elsewhere on the map because they brought back 2 to deal with you. So that's the kind of the logic that you want to be having in the mid-game aspect of it. Yeah. So that's pretty much it for this game. I'll just let it play out. A couple things I want to say. Thank you guys for the support. Been having a lot of positive feedback on the videos. Hopefully it helps. I know right now the production value is not very high. I'll be working on it, but right now I'm just trying to get as much content as possible. So let me know if you guys have any suggestions in the comments. A couple of video ideas that I've got right now are to talk about rotations. So talk about the zip lines, how they work, things like that. And I also want to make some character specific guides right now. So I've played a lot of Lash. I've played probably 150 games of Lash at least, maybe more. And I would really like to make a guide on that character. So yeah, let me know if there's anything you guys need help with in particular. Another thing is I'm probably going to be offering demo reviews. So if any of you guys have games that you're wondering why you lost, you don't really know, you think you did well, and you want to see if you were the problem, if your teammates were the problem, what's going on in those games, feel free to post it in the comments. Just post the match ID. How you find the match ID is in the top right here. It says match 3504236. So you can post the match ID. I'll be taking a look, and I'll probably make videos for the ones that I find the most relevant. So I probably won't be able to cover all of them. I'll do my best. And the last thing, yeah, leave a like, subscribe. It's much appreciated. And if you would like to interact more, ask more questions, feel free to join my Discord. It'll be in the description below. All right. Thank you guys so much. Hope you have a wonderful day.